we're starting today with zone case 11 of 2022 for 318 Cedar Avenue. The applicant is identified as Stephen Brescia. Do we have somebody from the applicant here? Raising their hand, perhaps? There we go. Matt Caldwell. We let you in. Mr. Caldwell, could you identify yourself for the record? Go off mute, please.
Yes, ma'am.
There you are. Are you anticipating that others will join you in testifying on behalf of the applicant this morning?
Perhaps. Justin Kensinger, is he here?
Can we check to see if Mr. Kensinger is here? There we go. All right. We'll let Mr. Kensinger in as well. Okay, is that it? So, all right. Mr. Kensinger and Mr. Caldwell, if you could unmute yourself and do each of you swear or affirm that the information you'll provide to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Shepke, could you read in the case, please?
This is zone case 11 of 2022 for 318 Cedar Avenue. The application is for the use of a new 80 square foot wall sign and 108 square foot ground sign for the Giant Eagle grocery store. They're requesting a variance from 919.03.m.3a, maximum 80 square foot face area for wall signs and RP. 92 square feet is requested, and a variance from 919.03.m.3.b. Maximum height of ground sign 20 feet from top of sign to grade, and face area of 50 square feet, height exceeding 20 feet of face area, and 100 square feet is requested.
Okay. Mr. Caldwell or Mr. Kensinger, who's starting on behalf of the applicant?
I can do that.
Could you just identify yourself for the court reporter, please?
Matt Caldwell.
Thank you. So do we have any information about where this, I see signs and photos of the sign, but do we have any information about where the property is located?
At 318 Cedar Avenue.
Well, do you have a site plan or an aerial view or any information about where the property is?
There we go. That is the site plan.
Okay, but where are we talking about here?
We're talking on the front of the building closest to Presley Street.
Could you be a little bit more, I mean, is this south side, north side? I mean, we have East Allegheny, but like.
Yeah, it's the, where is the property?
Yeah,
itself?
that's part of what we're trying to evaluate here.
It is, what, on the east side? Near the, can we zoom that out at all? Bear with me, I'm having trouble getting that site plan to be large enough to.
Well, we have,
pull up my.
Daniel is controlling, you don't have the screen share, so you could just tell us what part of the city is it?
It's on the north side.
Okay.
And it's near the aviary.
Okay.
Oh, that's why I identify it. But
and is this a proposal to replace existing signs on the existing grocery store?
that is correct. With the new image, we're actually reducing square footage from what's there currently, but we are over what is permitted.
And what is the sign face area of the existing wall sign?
If he can scroll down, there we go. The existing is 211.11 square feet.
Okay, and the proposed is not quite half of that?
Less than half, yes.
Okay. Okay. And so that's for the wall sign. And does the logo portion, do the two little leaves count as part of the sign face area?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. And then the other sign at issue is a ground sign. And
It's a
is
pole.
there a rendering of the ground sign? Is that also a proposal
Yes.
to replace an existing sign?
that's a 1-for-1 replacement. All we're
Okay.
doing is replacing the faces. The structure is staying the same. It's my understanding there's no CO on file for that, so.
Okay. Do you have any information about how long that sign has been in place?
No, there was no information at all.
But Giant Eagle didn't have any records or as to when it constructed the existing store, or when the sign might have been installed?
No, ma'am. I don't believe they own the property.
And is there any other signage proposed for any other of the building facades or any other ground signs?
No.
And the intent of, is this just a branding upgrade?
Correct.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Mr. Richardson or Ms. Burton Falk, any questions of the applicant?
No questions.
Okay.
No additional questions.
Okay. And Mr. Kensinger, did you want to add anything to Mr. Caldwell's testimony?
No, I don't believe so. I think he captured everything. I think it's just an image upgrade that the customer is looking for.
Okay. And do you have any information as to when the, how long the store has been there?
I don't. As Matt had stated, I know they weren't able to identify any previous certificate of occupancy files from what I understood. So.
And could you give us a little bit of the context of the neighborhood? I mean, we're just seeing the store and the parking lot. I mean, what are on the properties surrounding it?
Matt, are you able to contest that since you're more local than I am?
I can. It's Allegheny Commons Park. It's a couple of blocks off of Dutchtown. There's commercial properties sprinkled in with residential over there. It's all pretty tightly packed together. There's a hotel, down the street. There's a hotel. There's a tire shop across the street. There's an Elks Lodge, and then there's another a plaza just down the street from there.
Okay. All right. It helps us to have a little bit of a context, not just your immediate property, but thank you for that description. Do we have any others who would like to participate in this hearing? Anybody, if there's anybody who is attending who would like to offer testimony in this hearing, raise your hand or let us know you're there. We have an Eric Kunzelman. Can we let Mr. Kunzelman in? Mr. Kunzelman, could you
Hi,
identify yourself for the record, please?
Yes, I'm from Giant Eagle. I work in the store planning and design department.
Could you speak up a little bit because I didn't hear that?
Yes, I work for Giant Eagle in the store planning and design department.
Okay, and did you have something else that you wanted to add to this hearing?
Yes, we don't have a current certificate of occupancy for the signs that I was able to find in our system. but I know that the building itself and the signs in question have been there at least 25 years. The tall ground sign is much older than that.
You'll need to speak into your microphone, Mr. Kunzelman, because we're getting every other word.
Is this any better?
That's a bit better. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm having some audio technical difficulties. I apologize. So I was unable to find the current certificate of occupancy for this location, but I could find documents dating the ground sign back over 30 years. So
Okay.
I know it has been there at least that long.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right. Anybody else who would like to participate in this hearing? Any other? Okay.
In the
And-
Q&A, Dave says that he wants to provide testimony. Could we?
All right. The person who's identified as Dave. Could you identify yourself for the record, please? Could you unmute yourself and identify yourself for the record?
Can you hear me now? I think I
Yeah,
unmuted.
thank you. Yes.
Hello. Yes. Yeah. My name is David Demko. I'm a resident of the North Side, nearby, at 1303 Boyle Street. That's David Demko, Demko. I'm also Assistant Director of Scenic Pittsburgh. We have an interest in signs in general. This particular site at Giant Eagle is directly across from the pool, the city pool, on Cedar Avenue, and which is just it's almost cat a corner from the Battery in Allegheny Commons Park. It's also adjacent to Avery Avenue, which I'm not sure if it's a historic district or not, but it certainly has historic significance. A lot of beautiful houses in it. The thing about this neighborhood, the subdivide is the size of the pole sign. Ideally, we shouldn't have pole signs in this neighborhood at all, but I understand they have one by right. I think they should be limited to what they're allowed by right. There's no reason in this neighborhood to have an oversized pole sign. And that's my testimony. Thank you very much.
But, Mr. Demko, you acknowledge that the pole sign has been there for a significant period of time, and would you dispute that testimony?
I wish I had a picture, but I can't even picture the sign right now. I assume it has been there for a considerable amount of time. Yes, I would not dispute that.
Okay, I'm just, like I said, if you're familiar with the neighborhood, I'm just curious. But thank you for your testimony. We appreciate your perspective.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else for Cedar
Yeah.
Avenue?
Madam Chair, are there additional photos in this presentation?
There were the photos of the, there we go. Oops. Is that helpful, Ms. Burton-Paul?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
We'll accept the whole package as part of the record. And we'll close the hearing for this morning. Thank you all for being here this morning. Moving on. Thank you to the group from Giant Eagle. We're gonna close the hearing and move on to the next. The next case of the morning is zone case 13 of 2022 for 2119 Rose Street. The applicant is identified as Stephen Johnson. Can we identify who is to participate in this hearing?
Hi, Madam
Mr.
Chairman.
Cipriani,
Yes, I'll be presenting for Mr. Johnson this morning.
are there others on your team who are testifying this morning as well?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right. And do you, we have Mr. Johnson?
I believe he is en route and will be here momentarily.
Okay, we have him identified as well. So
Okay, great.
could each of you swear or affirm that the information you'll provide to the board this morning will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. This is Mr.
And-
Johnson as well. The applicant, Justin Cipriani, is the architect of record and will be presenting on my behalf.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson.
Mhm.
And Daniel, could you read the case in, please? And we can note the variances as described in the agenda, but
This is zone case 13 of 2022 for 2119 Rose Street. The application is for the new construction of 6 single unit attached residences. And they're requesting several variances as described in the agenda.
okay, from dimensional standards and for parking.
Correct.
Okay, so Mr. Cipriani, we have your materials up. Could you, I'm seeing a rendering of the building, but can we start with a site plan or an aerial view giving us an idea of where the property is located?
Yes, Daniel, if you don't mind going to the site plan on that right there. Per the introduction, thank you for having us on the agenda. The project is 6 new proposed homes. The site location is in the Hill District on Rose Street at the corner of Rose and Elmore.
Do you have an aerial view or any other sort of context information?
We do have a series of photographs from the neighborhood to kind of get a sense of the current housing stock that's there. To see sort of the neighborhood standards. I sent evidence of the post as well as a few images of the contacts as JPEGs in the email. I'm not sure if they made it to the presentation or not.
Okay.
Justin, I probably just missed those. I'll bring them up in just a second.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks.
So, Mr. Cipriani, could you, maybe if we could go back to the site plan and could you, we do have lot size and setback variances being requested. So could you explain that?
Yes.
Thank
The variance requests are triggered by essentially 2 factors. One is the site itself is sloped from Rose Street back down to it's a downhill slope, so slopes downhill from Rose Street. Fetus Way in the rear is a paper street that is undeveloped. That condition sort of drove the setback and parking conditions. We do not have access from the back. It is not developed. It is not paved. There's no infrastructure. So to develop that was sort of outside the scope of the project. And so we worked with zoning and DOMI to develop a streetscape that was an acceptable solution to parking in the rear. So curb cuts, street trees, and that kind of stuff was developed to sort of be an equivalent, an acceptable alternative to using and developing the rear of the site. And then the other sort of dimensional setbacks are triggered by the project sort of goal, which is single family homes. They are single family lots, but they're in an RMM district. So there are a lot of ordinances overlaid, side setbacks and stuff that are really set up for RMM structures. And since the goal was single family homes for ownership for community members, we wanted to keep it as a single family project and single family homes on those lots. So in order to do that,
can I interrupt you for a second
Yep.
here? Is your position that if this were being considered as 6 units on a single lot, then it would be closer to the 1,800 square foot minimum lot size per unit?
well,
But-
we do meet the minimum lot size per unit. We're 1,734 versus 1,800, so we're pretty close on the size. It's more
Okay,
the
sorry,
setbacks.
can you just pause for a second? On our
Yes.
agenda, okay, so
That was a
it's
typo on the agenda.
it's not 734 lot size per unit, it's 1734?
Correct.
Okay, so that it's still a variance, but you're close on the lot size per unit. But
Yes.
what you're expressing your preference to do is to split these into individual lots, which wouldn't meet the 3,200 square foot per lot. Is that, okay,
Exactly. And the side setbacks get sort of bundled into that sort of single family layout implication.
okay. So this is, the side setback requests are for the interior attached sides, is that correct?
Technically, they're detached, but they're 0 lot line.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Mhm.
But the, I guess on the exterior sides of the end units, do you meet the setback requirements or?
It's the same condition. It's set up for a larger building, so they would ultimately want those setbacks, but we're doing single family and we're trying to, basically not bring 2 or 3 units, but use those 6 lots and bring 6 single family homes onto the site. So they are lot line on the edges. There's an existing house with setbacks, and so thanks, Daniel. So if you can see those, go through those site photos, we do match sort of like the massing and cadence of the rest of the neighborhood. It's to sort of meet, at best not have a negative impact at best, complement and match that sort of urban facade intent of the neighborhood, which is, 2-story with the roof attached, single family home cadence.
Can you explain what's being shown in this rendering?
Yes, these 3 photos are all photographs. I think this is Elmore, and the other shots are of Rose. These are the previous generations of URA residential efforts around us in the neighborhood. So we're sort of next generation in this effort. The biggest difference for us is, a lot of these are rentals, and we're trying to get home ownership in the neighborhood. And so it's a little bit of a different, site plan with the different lots, and some implications that we're going through right now with the ZBA. But, these are sort of, just like you said, 1 lot, no lot lines, rentals. And so we want to look like them. We have a little bit of a different mission that we developed with the PDHC and the URA, and those groups. We're sort of looking for people to come in and own these and that kind of stuff. So again, the setbacks and stuff are kind of triggered by those lot lines and stuff like that.
What you're showing us, and this isn't a rendering, this is a photo.
No, those are photos of the rest of the neighborhood.
Okay, and thank you. It's like, it's hard to, but the
Yeah, right.
the structures that you're proposing would have front yard parking, and none of these do.
That's correct. That's correct. That is the alternative. The sites that these homes are located on are flat, which is really the trigger. I think if we had a flat lot, we could have gone around the back and accessed the lot. But developing infrastructure, especially public infrastructure on the back, was sort of outside the bounds of a lower cost housing sort of project effort. And it's in the intent of the overlay is, on steep lots, the city ultimately doesn't want you to develop the entire thing. But if you can develop part of it and leave part of it in conservation, I think that's the intent of some of the steep slope overlay territories. Like, you can't build on them. It's not.
Do you have any information or that in this packet or additional information that would show us that you said that there was a significant grade change towards the rear, but do you have anything that depicts that?
No, we have a civil engineering firm who handles all of our work, and was sort of lead consulting on the overlay and that sort of, and from a site engineering perspective. And I don't think they're on the call, but I think it would be, on the public overlay information and stuff.
Well, it would be helpful, since you're requesting a variance and one of the points you're making is a topographic condition. It would be helpful for us to have evidence of that, whether photographic or from the civil engineer. So if you could make sure that you supplement the record so that we have that.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. All right. I think we've covered all of the variances being requested. Mr. Richardson or Ms. Burton Falk, any questions of the applicant?
No additional questions.
No questions.
Okay, and Mr. Johnson, did you have anything you wanted to add with respect to the presentation this morning?
No, not at this moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just thought I'd give you a chance.
I appreciate it.
Is there anybody who is participating who would like to comment on the request on the application here? I'm seeing none. So thank you for your testimony. And if you could supplement the record as requested, that would be really helpful.
You bet.
We'll close the hearing for today. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. The next case of the morning is zone case 1 of 2022 for 334 Harmer Street. Nobody gets a prize for being number 1. Zone case 1 of 2022. This is Brian Moran and the team from Wiley Holdings. Seeing Mr. Smith, Mr. King.
Yes, Brian is not here today.
Ron is there.
Yes.
Don't lie, he's there. Do each of you swear or affirm that the information you'll provide this morning will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Mr. Shep, could you read in the case for this morning?
We're waiting for one more person. I'm sorry, Scott Pilston. Did he get the invite thing? The join as panelist.
Who is the other person?
Yeah, Scott Pilston.
Would he be identified as Red Swing, sorry?
Might be, I'm not sure. He's in his office next to mine.
We have a Red Swing 29 raising their hand.
That's probably it.
Okay. We have whoever's identified as Red Swing 29. All right. Mr. Shepke, could you read the case in, please?
This is case 1 of 2022 for 334 Harmar Street. The applications for the subdivision of 1 lot into 2 lots. They're requesting a variance from 903.03.d.2, 1,800 square foot minimum lot size, 1,750 and 1,250 is requested. 15-foot minimum rear setback, 7 foot and 15 foot is requested, and a variance from 926.129, which requires that lots have frontage on the street.
All right. Mr. Smith, could you lead us through what's being requested for this parcel?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This project is owned by Wiley Holdings, and they are looking to do, it's 2 structures. One is fronting Harmer Street, and the other is in the rear. It's hidden by the trees in this image here, but it's there. Looking to subdivide it, right, kind of like subdivide it right down the middle, and split it into 2 separate deeds.
Okay, and can you explain, since the other structure does seem to be hidden by the trees? I'm not quite sure why we're going in and out of recording, but we'll manage here. Can you explain a little bit about the structures themselves and how they're used and how long they've been there?
I'll let Mr. King describe that. And we do have some historical maps on this slide presentation.
They are both single-family homes. I didn't review the historical maps, but they're fairly old structures that were probably built at the same time as the remainder of the neighborhood. The purpose is not to change anything. It's just to have each one deeded separately.
Well, can you explain the lot 1 or lot 2 seems to have frontage on Harmer Street, but how is lot 1 accessed?
Lot 2, it would also be Harmer Street, 334 Harmer rear, and it does have an easement down the left side of the front house.
Is it's not a driveway, it's just an access easement?
It's just a walkway, yes.
Okay. And is there any indication as to how long that condition has existed?
It would have to have been original.
Okay.
Daniel, if you go to slide 6, we have some historical photos from 1910 and historical drawings. There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Wish we would have had these on some of the older ones. We discovered this location here. So in
Maybe because
1910
I was asking questions about the history.
Yeah.
Okay, but that
we wouldn't have thought you might have asked. No.
there you go.
So 1910, it did not exist. In 1923, it did exist, the rear structure.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. And again, the intent is not to change the use, but simply to create separate parcels.
Correct.
And can you explain a little bit? So there's no access to the rear on Harmer. What's the topography? I mean, is it a slope downward from Harmer or up or?
It's a slope downward.
Okay.
So if you were to estimate it, I would say the roof of the rear house is at about the second floor.
You said the roof of the rear house is at about the second story of the
front house.
front. Okay.
Yeah. So it's probably about a 10-foot grade from the street to the back.
Okay. Okay. And like I said, again, the intent is not to change the use, but to create separate parcels. Neither of the structures would have had on-site parking.
Correct.
Okay, and that would have been the historic condition back to 1923 at least.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I didn't have any other questions. Ms. Burton-Falk or Mr. Richardson, any questions of this applicant?
No additional questions, Madam Chair.
No questions.
Okay. And do we have anybody else who would like to participate in this particular hearing? I'm not seeing anybody else who would like to participate in this hearing, so we will close the record for 334 Harmer Street and move on to the next case of the morning.
I just want to say sorry, there is a technical issue, or it's stopped by itself. So I try to.
We're not hearing any of this, Miriam. I apologize. Okay, I think we're still going to move on to the next case until we can resolve some of our technical issues. Unless the court reporter tells me he's not hearing anything. All right, the next case of the morning. The next case of the morning is zone case 250 of 2021 for 3434 Beethoven Street. Again, the applicant is Brian Moran and Wiley Holdings. We continue to have the Wiley Holdings team with us who remain under oath. So Daniel, could you read the case in, please, for this one?
This is case 250 of 2021 for 3434 Beethoven Street. The application is to subdivide one lot into two lots. They're requesting variances from 903.03.d.2. 3,200 minimum lot size is required and 2,200 square foot is requested. And a 25-foot minimum rear setback is required and 17 foot is requested.
All right. Mr. Smith, could you explain what's going on here?
Absolutely, Madam Chairwoman. Okay, this is a property that's connected between Bigelow and Beethoven Street. At the time of this aerial image, there was two structures, as you can see there, one fronting on Bigelow, one fronting on Beethoven, and on the survey, and on the survey to the left that was done, I don't know, sometime this past fall, the structure has been torn down. So it's no longer there. So the aerial image does show structure, but it's not there.
Sorry, it's the Bigelow Boulevard structure that's no longer there? Or the
Correct.
Beethoven?
Bigelow.
Okay.
One on the top. So Mr. King is looking, Wiley Holdings is looking to split the lots into two. And if you go to the next slide, Daniel, you can see that same slide, or the same red lines indicating the lot being split, and some contextual properties right next to them.
Okay.
And historical images are two slides further. That one's a little hard to see with the aerial, but there we go there. So in 1910, both structures were there. In 1923, they're both there, and that's the pretty much the earliest ones we could find.
Okay. And there's a pretty significant slope from Bigelow down to Beethoven Street.
Correct. The grade change is substantial. Yes.
So the request is, are these both proposed as 2,200 square foot lots? I mean, you're creating equal size lots, or is one bigger or smaller than the other?
They're both going to be identical in size. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. A further slide down, Daniel, I think it's that's the poster. So there's the house on Beethoven.
Okay.
And then the next one is a vacant lot on, we went out and took that afterwards. There's the vacant lot on Bigelow.
Okay. And there, it's again, the lot size is proposed to be the same, and then with the separation of the two lots, each would, well, there's no existing structure on the Bigelow lot. So there's no setback issue that you're creating. I mean, any structure, if a new structure is proposed for that lot, it would be dealing with a shorter lot.
Right. That came in. So I'm wondering when the plans were submitted, whenever the zoning hearing variance list came out, whoever in the zoning office, maybe they thought there was a structure there.
Well, no, the agenda just says 1 17-foot setback requested. And is that for the rear of the Beethoven lot?
Must be.
Okay.
It must be.
Because right now there's no structure. I mean, you're not creating any nonconformity because it's a vacant lot, but any future development of that site would have to comply with the setback requirements or seek variance.
And apply for any variances if so desired
Okay.
at that time. Yes.
All right. Like I said, I just want to be clear as to what is actually being requested here. All right. Okay, I didn't have any other questions. Mr. Richardson or Ms. Burton-Falk?
No questions.
No questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else who would like to participate in this hearing? This is for Beethoven Street. If anybody's interested, if they could raise their hand. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next case. So thank you to the Wiley Holdings team. we'll move
Thank you.
on.
Pleasure.
All right. All right. Oddly enough, we're back on Beethoven Street. The next case of the morning is zone case 12 of 2022 for 3635 Beethoven Street. And the applicant is identified as Clifford Matthew or Matthew Clifford. I'm not quite sure which it is. Do we have the applicant?
Can everyone hear me?
Mr. Hopkins, could you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yes, hello. My name is Will Hopkins. I'm here representing Matt Clifford, the owner of the property in question. That's his proxy today. He couldn't be on the call. So
can you pause for a moment?
Yep.
Do you anticipate that anybody else will be participating with you this morning?
Unless Matt is able to join, but last I heard he was not.
Mr. Clifford is with us here, so
Oh,
I'm
he
going
is
to
here.
ask you
Okay.
both to, if Mr. Clifford could come off mute for a moment. Do each of you swear or affirm that the information you'll provide to the board this morning will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shepke, could you read the case in, please?
This is case 12 of 2022 for 3635 Beethoven Street. The application is to rebuild a front porch. They're requesting variances from 903.03.c.2. A 5-foot side setback is required, and 0 foot and 3.6 foot is requested, and a 30-foot front setback is required, and 0 foot is requested.
All right. So, Mr. Hopkins, we have thank you for the photo of the posted notice. That's helpful. But can you, there's the context that we need.
Yes, so this property is located in Polish Hill, actually right down the street from the last case. It's as you take the turn off the Bloomfield Bridge, you would enter that side of Beethoven Street, and this house is the first one now on that block. Daniel misspoke a little bit. We're not trying to replace a porch. It was a porch that had been infilled prior to Matt buying the property in 2006. It was a porch that's been infilled. It's starting to drift from the house and needs to be replaced. So we're trying to replace in kind the same existing dimensions and everything, but it would be an enclosed part of the first floor. So if you go down to the next one.
So that's helpful. Is it the red brick?
It's the white house.
The white one.
So the white, you can see how it's been enclosed, and I don't know at what year this would have happened, but given the age of the materials and everything, it's definitely been there for decades. But it's not the original. And you can see the pier where it's separated. Actually, the next photo I think shows clearly. You can see how the pier is separated from the brick, and this is where things are becoming an issue. So what Matt would like to do is tear that off, re-pour a proper footing, and build back in a similar, in the exact similar dimensions of that. But it comes all the way to the sidewalk, as you can see, to the front property line. On the side, it's already at the left property line. On the right, there's a walkway. You can see the gate. We'd still be following that setback, but this neighborhood is a high density. It really doesn't fit any of the setbacks of the code. You can see it along the street. If you go back to the aerial view, I mean, every house is basically to the property line at the front side, and the other side has a little walkway.
Are there other houses on the street that have the same, I mean, the porches may extend to the front property line, but are
Other
there
ones
any
do
other?
not have enclosed. This is one of the few that.
Mr.
at some point
Hopkins, you
someone-
have to wait for me to
Oh,
finish my
sorry.
question before you answer it.
No, that's fine. Sorry.
But that is my question. So this is the only porch that has been enclosed on the street. Is that
It is.
correct?
Mhm.
And then, but your position is that the enclosed condition has existed for a considerable period of time, but that condition isn't reflected on a certificate of occupancy or anything.
Correct.
Okay. But, and the intent is not to, it's not like you're proposing an additional story above that enclosed area. You're
No.
Proposing to replace the enclosed area.
No, I will stay a 1-story, and even if you go further down, there's a schematic drawing done. Well, this is just a blow up of the survey, but this survey that was done in the 80s. Yeah. So yeah, here you go. So if you look to the left side of this drawing, there's the existing on the right-hand side and proposed on the left. Still sticking with 1-story. The heights are in question right now because Matt would like to do a green roof on the top of it rather than having this shed roof. But you can see there's still an open area on the left-hand side that would be the entrance to the house. So that's actually really not changing. It still remains open. The right-hand side is actually getting a little bit smaller, but would be enclosed.
Can you explain again the request is for variances from the setback requirements, and with 0 setback on one side and 3.6 on the other. From this rendering, is the 3.6 foot setback on the right side and the 0
the
on
right
the
hand
left?
side? Yes. So if you can kind of see on the survey there, or if you go back to the other page, the survey will be a little bit larger scale. And I don't know if you can zoom in. So,
Okay.
So on the right hand side, there's a walkway, and it's 3.5 roughly feet wide that goes to the back of the house before the property line. On the left hand side, the entire structure, including the this 1-story front, is all type 2 property.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. Is there anything else that you wanted us to take a look at?
No, I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. And Ms. Burton-Falk or Mr. Richardson, any questions of the applicant?
No additional questions.
No questions.
And Mr. Clifford, did you want to add anything to what Mr. Hopkins has explained here?
No, he seems to covered everything.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any other participants who would like to say anything about this particular case? Any other applicants for any other participants for 3635 Beethoven Street? Seeing none. Thank you for being here. We're going to close the record for this hearing.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, thank you. Okay. We are running so correctly on time. We have about 30 seconds until it's 9:50, but I think we'll call the next case. The next case is zone case 15 of 2022 for 500 North Sheridan Avenue. The applicant is identified as Ankur Dobrale. Or do we have somebody who is seeking to participate in this hearing?
Yes.
Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
My name is Brian Gaudio, and I work with Encore Dobrale as the design builder for the owner of the property, and I think the owner of the property should be here as well.
Okay, then that's Darren Hollingsworth and Adrienne Hoffler.
Correct.
Just want to make sure we have everybody here. We have Ms. Hoffler, and I'm going to ask you both if you could unmute for a moment. Do you swear or affirm that the information you'll provide to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. And Mr. Shepke, could you read the case in, please?
This is zone case 15 of 2022 for 500 North Sheridan Avenue. Their request is for a new construction of a 21-foot 4-inch by 21 4-inch 2-car rear garage, and they're requesting a variance from the side setback in the zoning district.
All right. Mr. Gaudio, you'll have to take yourself off mute again if you're going to make this presentation here.
Adrian and Darren, I believe, we're going to present.
Okay. I was going to say, whoever's taking the lead on the presentation, we'd like to understand what's going on here.
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yes, if you could identify yourself for the record, please, that would be helpful.
I'm Darren Hollingsworth.
And you're the property owner.
I'm the property owner along with Adrian.
Great. All right. Can you explain what you're proposing to do here?
Sure. Okay, so we are proposing to build a 21 by 21 garage, which is which is not connected to the property. Setback meets the setback from the sidewalk, the requirements. A couple of variances which are requested are the side yard setback, which is pertaining to the property line, and then there's a variance for the within the side yard to use 3 feet instead of the 5 required, but in line with the existing structure. Can you? Yeah, thank you. Next slide.
Yeah, I was going to say, and could you just give us a little bit of where on North Sheridan Avenue this is, and a little bit of the context of the neighborhood? Do you have any photos that show us that?
Yeah, can you see this slide?
Well, we have the site plan.
Okay, can you, we'll give you the next one.
I will come back to this, but I want to understand where we're talking about.
This is a new home being built. Yeah, this shows.
And Ms. Hoffler, I apologize, but for our court reporter, if you could just identify yourself for the record, please.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm Adrian Hoffler, co-owner of.
Okay, thank you. So this is up from East Liberty Boulevard.
Yes.
And the rear way is Minetto Way?
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Sure. So the front of the house is on North Sheridan and the garage will be on Minetto.
Okay. Had there been a garage on that parcel previously?
Not to our knowledge.
Okay. And are there other garages or structures on Minetto Way? It looks like there are a couple up from you, but then also on the opposite side of the street?
Yeah, if you scroll a couple of slides down, you'll see some photos. That's the elevator. Yeah, here you go.
Okay.
Some other garages down the block.
Including what you'll see is that there are several in terms of already, 2-car type garages. Okay. When you're looking at 519 Sheridan, was a 2-car garage. It appears to have been that someone then split it into, bisected it into 1-car garages. But you see also additionally 510 Sheridan and throughout the various structures along the Minetto Way, there are parking, including where you have individual garages, but with 1 car on a pad adjacent to the individual garages.
Okay. And do you, I saw from the first page that your position is that the variances requested could be addressed as an administrator exception, but for the fact that the neighboring property owner doesn't appear to be available to give consent to that.
Correct.
Okay. And so the house immediate, could you go back to the site plan again? Sorry. There we go. So the proposal is to access this from from the, is it from a Minetto Way then?
That's correct.
Okay. And you would have some setback on the East Liberty Boulevard side, but a more limited setback on the interior side.
That is correct.
Okay. And that it sort of matches up with the line of the house?
It matches up with the line of the house, just a little bit wider, because the home, I think, is 20. Yeah, just a little bit wider.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I wanted to add, this is Brian Gaudio for the record. Looking at the historic maps, there were structures, there was actually a shed or garage structure on the 1923 map for the property on the rear in Minetto Way. And then there was, there was a curb cut off East Liberty Boulevard. So there was a garage structure that actually had a curb cut off of East Liberty Boulevard.
That doesn't
And
sound
then
very safe.
there was actually another building. Well, this is probably prior to what East Liberty Boulevard is today. And then there was another structure on Manito Way as well. So that's the, we can email that.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that's additional evidence, the 1923 map, it's helpful for us to understand how structures had been located on the parcel.
Yes. So there was
even if
a
they're-
structure on Manito Way and then a structure on 500 North Sheridan with a garage. It looks like it was a garage or a shed. So I can send that.
But has the parcel always existed as it is now, that all the way to East Liberty Boulevard?
The parcel, ELDI, so East Liberty Development Incorporated, this used to be there used to be an L-shaped property. The property has been consolidated and re-subdivided, it seems, a number of times. So ELDI, long story short, ELDI helped clean up both 500 North Sheridan and the property next door to make sure that they were two single individual properties. This was prior to Adrian and Darren taking ownership of the property.
Got it. It looks like a large lot. So I was curious about the history of it. Okay. But that's really helpful. Yes, if you could add that to the record, that's helpful for us to understand as well.
Yes.
And this is proposed as a 1-story but 2-car garage. So there's not a height issue. It's just the dimensional issues.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I didn't have any other questions. Mr. Richardson or Ms. Burton Falk, any questions on this application?
No questions.
No questions.
All right. We will, do we have anybody else who would like to participate in this hearing? Anybody raising their hand? We have Mr. Schwab. Mr. Schwab, could you chime in here? If you could unmute yourself, thank you.
Yep.
And
I'm unmuted.
Mr. Schwab, do you swear or affirm that the information you'll provide to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And could you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yeah, Skip Schwab, Deputy Director with East Liberty Development Incorporated. I simply wanted just to affirm that both the builder and the property owners have participated with our community planning committee on several meetings. And we as an organization are very comfortable with their building, both of the house and also of the garage.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Schwab.
You're welcome.
And you can confirm that ELDI assisted in subdividing, re-subdividing, sort of making sure that these were usable lots.
Oh, yes. And in fact, the rationale behind the subdivision was to provide the two houses going up above the proposed house to give them access to the alleyway also. So that was why what was an L-shaped lot was configured into 3 separate parcels.
Thank you for that helpful background.
You're welcome.
All right. And with that,
Have a
we
good
will
day.
close the record on this hearing, and thank you all for participating. and we're going to move on to the next for the day. The next case this morning is zone case 94 of 2021 for 1607 Manhattan Street. The applicant is identified as John Francona.
I'm here.
We have Mr. Francona. Okay, Mr. Francona, are there to be others participating with you this morning?
My client is Stephanie Harris.
Madam Chair, I'll be recusing from this one.
Thank you, Ms. Burton Falk.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate that. And we have Stephanie Harris as well. And I'm going to ask you both if each of you swear or affirm that the information you'll provide to the board this morning will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Shepke, could you read the case in, please?
This is case 94 of 2021 for 1607 Manhattan Street. The application is for 3-unit single family with shared driveway, 1 existing unit to be renovated and to have addition, and 2 new single family dwellings. They're requesting variances from 903.03.d.2 and 925.06.c. A 15-foot exterior side setback is required, 10-foot is proposed, and a 3-foot side setback is required, and a 0-foot side setback is proposed. And variances from 903.03.d.2. The minimum lot size per unit is 1,800 square feet. 1,728 is proposed. A 15-foot rear setback is required, and 13 feet is proposed. And variances from 903.03.d.2 and 912.04.c. A 15-foot exterior side setback is required, and 0-foot is proposed for a 6-foot tall privacy fence. And a 5-foot interior side setback is required, and 0 is proposed for accessory decks and a porch.
Okay, thank you for all of that. So, Mr. Francona, can you explain what it is and why you're requesting the variances you're requesting?
Okay, so can I just run through the presentation?
Yes, I mean, present the evidence supporting your request for a variance. And could you just clarify one thing? This is an R2H district, but 3 units are being proposed?
There are 3 units on 3 separate lots. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So it's in. So the first slide shows in the blue circle the general area where we are. It's in Manchester, and it's in an R2H district. Next slide, please. So it's on the corner of Manhattan and North Franklin. It's on the northwest corner of the 3 lots. Next slide.
And are they 3 existing lots then?
We're going to subdivide. There are 3 existing lots, but we're going to reconfigure them slightly.
Okay.
And that'll show on the thing. This slide just shows the 3 placards that were shown on the site. That we had 3 separate placards, and they're all shown here on this slide. Next slide. So this is the existing condition. You can see it's kind of in the center of the drawing is 1607 Manhattan. There's an existing house there in the front on Manhattan, and there's an existing 2nd unit in the rear of that property that's there now, and it's currently a 2-family on that property, which we're going to convert to single family, and then the 2 vacant lots going towards North Franklin. There's and they really don't have addresses yet, so I'm identifying them as 22K 272 and 22K 273. Next
but
slide.
they're outside of this scope. You've identified another structure going towards Rush Street, but that's not part of what you're.
That's not part of it. Yeah, I'm just showing that for context. Yeah, and those are the only buildings on that block.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Sure. Next slide. This is what we're proposing to do. So 1607, we're proposing to subdivide so that right now the lot is under the 1,800 square feet. And you can see at the bottom portion of the site where the existing two-story garage, where it says existing two-story, we're increasing the lot size by 5 feet by 15 feet. And that's for some building code situation that we need 5 feet in front of that side to be able to put a garage door in that side. So we're reconfiguring that. The next property, we're going to reconfigure that as well, and it's going to end up being over the 1,800 square feet. And then the lot on the corner is going to get a little smaller, but it's going to be well above the 1,800 square feet proposed. So
one of the existing lots is already non-conforming, is what you're saying, but it's going to get a little bit bigger.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So what we're proposing on 1607 is that we demolish what is existing between the two properties and fill that in with new construction and make it all a one-family dwelling, and then two proposed townhouses on the two new lots, and there'll be 3-story townhouses, and at the they'll have a shared driveway in the rear of the properties for all 3 properties.
But each would be a single unit, not because it's in an R2 district, but you're proposing single family. And
they're all single family, yes.
Okay, got it.
Next slide. So this is my interpretation of the variances required. So let's start on the left side. So we're building the new construction between the two existing, and that's going to be right on the property line. So I'm thinking that it's listed that we need a variance, but I think we can get an administrator's exception for that if we need to, because it meets the requirements for the administrator's exception, and the city owns the adjacent lot, so we shouldn't have any problem getting a letter from them if needed.
You never know.
The red box around on that same lot, the existing building is 14 feet 5 inches, and so the rear setback is 15 feet. So I think the variance is for that 7 inches between the existing and the new. I think that's what they're referring to when we need a variance for that, to build within the 15 rear setback.
Okay.
Going further, between the two new houses, we're putting porches over part of the garage, and so those fall within the 5-foot side setback for each of those. So since we own the property, we can get administrator's exception for those.
But for you're proposing the same condition for the accessory deck and porch.
I'm sorry.
The structures would be attached, but there's also the porches and decks for those structures would be to the property line.
Yes. Below that, you can see there's we're circled a 6-foot privacy fence. So that gets on the North Franklin Street. That's what's called an access. That's what's that called? The side setback.
Exterior side
setback. I'm sorry. Yeah. So that the privacy fence we want it to go all the way to to North Franklin. So that will fit in the exterior side setback.
Can you explain? So when you're on a intersection on a corner, can you explain if your position as to whether the proposed 6-foot fence would impede any visibility for traffic on North Franklin?
No, not at all.
Are there other fences or structure built to the property line on North Franklin?
Actually, where that fence is now, there is a fence there already. And there's some photographs that'll show that. Just a cyclone fence now, but there's an existing house there. So I'm treating this as a rear to the property rather than an exterior side setback. But
Well, but
and then
it's on the exterior side. So.
it is, yes. That's why we're asking for the variance. And so if you, and at the top, I circled the description that was read by Daniel was, we said it was 10 feet, but we're reducing that to 8 feet. So on that exterior side, we want to, instead of 15 feet, we want to be reduced to 8 feet on that corner.
Okay.
So if we go to the next slide. These are two examples. These are right across the street. The 1401 is right across North Franklin from our property, and so there's a 0 exterior side setback there.
Okay.
And then right across the street from that, which is catty corner from our property, is 1335 North Franklin, and there's a 0 side setback right there. So we're not proposing a 0. We're proposing an 8-foot setback, side setback, exterior side setback on that same corner. So that I just showed these to show precedence on that corner. The next slide, please. This is the front of the existing house, the 1607. Next slide. This is a side view showing the blue building is the one in the back that's it's only 14 feet 5 inches, and then the red brick. So the white sided structure in the middle, we're going to take that down and fill it in with new construction and make it a single family. And on the back of on the blue building, directly looking at it, there's going to be a garage door there. Okay. So that's where the driveway, the shared driveway, is going to be on the left side of the property. Next slide, please. This is the existing empty lots on the corner. And you can see the 1607, you can see a little bit of the red on the side. And then the blue building in the back is that existing one. And then where we want to build the 6-foot privacy fence is like within three feet of that house that's on North Franklin that we're looking straight at. Next slide will show it better. Right there. So okay. You can see there's a fence there already. Yep. That's where we're proposing the 6-foot privacy fence all along that existing house. Okay. Next slide. So this is what we want to do. We want to renovate 1607, which is on the right-hand side, and then the 2 new townhouses on the left that are on the right on the property line. On the right side, that's the side setback. So the corner of North Franklin is on the left side of the screen. Next slide. This is the side view of North Franklin. So beyond on the left-hand side, beyond, that's the new garage door in the blue building, and that's where the shared driveway is. Okay. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, this is looking at the back. That's the 6-foot privacy fence along the property. There are garages in the rear of the 2 new townhouses that you can see, the partial garage doors, you can see them. And then right above those are the 2 decks that we're talking about that we need the variance for the side setbacks between them.
And access to the garages from
North Franklin.
Okay.
Next slide. It'll show a little better. Next slide.
Thank you. Oh, so there we go.
Well, that's the corner. That's the corner showing the 2 new houses with the 8-foot side setback, exterior side setback.
So that's the shared driveway, and then the parking would be accessed from the rear.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wasn't understanding. I was seeing the fence, and it's like, how are you getting into those parking spaces? But it's from that shared driveway.
Yeah, I think the next slide will show it better.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, so that at the bottom of the screen is the new fence, the shared driveway, the 2 garages in the new building, and the garage to the existing building. And that's all off of North Franklin. And those are the two decks above the garages. Next slide, please. I think this might be that's just a different angle of it.
Yep.
That shows the driveway, the shared driveway with the 3 garages, the decks.
Got it.
In the corner.
Okay.
Next slide. Is that it? Is there one more?
I think that's
Okay,
it from
that's
what
it.
we have.
Okay.
Okay.
I know it's pretty complicated, but
Yeah, I'm wondering if we'll go back through the materials if there's additional information. I think you've covered it all. Mr. Richardson, did you have any questions of the applicant?
No questions.
And Ms. Harris, did you want to add anything to what Mr. Francona's described?
No, I think he's done a great job. So
okay. Thank you. Are there others who would like to participate in this hearing? Anybody raising their hand? I'm not seeing anybody. All right. Thank you for the comprehensive explanation of the number of variances being requested, but we will.
may I add something?
Sure.
We did meet with the Manchester Properties Group. We actually met with them twice. The first time we met with them was after our first zoning hearing on this, and they didn't like our plan, so we revised it and met with them again, and they are in support of the new project.
Do you have, nobody's here to make that representation. Do you have a letter or something?
I don't. I've asked for letters and I haven't gotten them.
Okay. But we have nobody here from the group. So, all right. Thank you very much for presenting this morning, and we will issue a decision within the time we're permitted.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks.
All right. The next application of the morning is zone case 16 of 2022 for 1807 Fulton Street. The applicant is identified as Gregory Peterson. Do we have Mr. Peterson or somebody for 1807 Fulton Street?
Hi, good morning, Madam Chair. It's David Montgomery. Mr. Peterson will not be joining us to present.
Okay. Mr. Montgomery, are there others on the project team? I'm assuming you're representing the applicant?
Correct. Yes, we have, I believe we should have Mr. Snow. Phil Snow is the project manager and a member of the mosque congregation.
We do have Mr. Snow. Are there others we should be looking for?
I believe Chris Richardson from Hampton Technical, the engineer on the project, should be on the call as well.
We have Mr. Richardson. So,
and pardon me, we're hoping that Allison Keating has managed to join the call. She's a neighbor and is in support of the project.
Okay. We have 2 phone numbers, one ending in 1286 and one ending in 3079. So I think we're going to get to the applicant testimony first, and then we'll ask others to join. And if you would like to participate at some point, if you could raise your hand, we'll know you're there. But for everybody who's participating on behalf of the applicant, if you could take yourself off mute for a moment, and do each of you swear or affirm that the information you'll provide to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. I'm taking that as affirmation. And Mr. Montgomery, could you proceed with your application, please?
Yes, we're seeking special exception relief from the board, a modification from the off-street parking requirements. This is a mosque, a religious assembly that was approved as a special exception back in 2020. And now we're back seeking some relief with respect to the parking. Mr. Richardson can explain that there are 20 spaces required. That's reduced to 14 due to the bicycle use that's provided. So 14 spaces are required. And if we went through some of the slides, you'll see the first couple of slides that we presented were just pictures of the notice that the applicant posted on the property. Mr. Richardson's site plan is the third item in our presentation. And if you have any questions for Mr. Richardson, you can answer them about the parking, but the issue here is the parking is not possible to get onto this lot with the mosque. And so basically we're asking the board to grant a modification to permit use of on-street parking in this neighborhood. And we have Mr. Snow who can testify about some of the neighborhood conditions that we think that's a good idea in this instance.
Yeah, Mr. Montgomery, can I just clarify for a moment? So it's your position that with the permitted reduction, only 14 parking spaces would be required.
Correct.
Assuming that bike parking spaces are provided on site.
Yes, that is correct.
And I don't have 100% recollection from the previous approval, but was there some possibility of a shared parking arrangement with another use in the area?
Your recollection is correct. During the last hearing, after the hearing, the applicant pursued an off-site parking agreement with a church located approximately 900 feet away. And they went through the process, but it turned out that the church was unwilling to configure their parking lot to allow the shared parking due to the cost and what they perceived as the loss of some of their spaces. Pardon me. So that agreement, they just were never able to enter into that. And so we're back again today, just requesting a modification, hoping the board can see fit to allow on-street parking. And just for some
as I recall, and again, a couple of questions. If no formal parking arrangement is possible with the church, are there any informal possibilities for like overflow parking or sort of cooperative use of parking? And it seems to me that the mosque use had more intensive periods where parking would be required, but it's your position that on-street parking would generally be available and it would not conflict with the church parking times.
Yeah, the mosque service, the heavy service they have is on Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock. And there's a church across the street, which obviously would have Sunday services. So they would not conflict. And the church itself exclusively relies on on-street parking as well. The neighborhood is somewhat unique. It's nominally a high-density district, but if you were to look at the overhead drawing that we included with our materials, which is 2 slides in, that you'll see that it's actually not very dense, and there are a lot of vacant lots and underutilization in the neighborhood. And I guess just as a housekeeping matter, Mr. Snow went through the neighborhood and everyone he contacted supported the project, and he included a petition, which is the next slide after the site plan prepared by Mr. Richardson. And that petition is part of our materials, where the neighbors agree that on-street parking is appropriate in this instance and that they support it.
I'd like to go back to your statement that the church has a parking lot, but also relies on street parking, but the time of the church's more intensive use wouldn't conflict with the mosque's use. And if on-street parking works for the church, then at a separate time of the week, it should also work for the mosque use.
I think that's fair to say. And let me just be clear, there are 2 churches that I've discussed.
Okay.
the one church where the mosque pursued the off-street shared parking was 900 feet away. There's another church that's directly across the street, which is I think the Methodist Church. Mr. Snow can speak to this. And that's the church directly across the street that relies exclusively on the on-street parking.
Got it.
Pardon me.
But the likelihood of the different churches having on-street parking at the same time, but the mosque would still have on-street parking at a different time.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And Mr.
Okay.
Snow, very familiar with the operation of the mosque.
Okay.
Mr. Snow has gone through the neighborhood at the mosque meeting time at Friday at 1 o'clock. He did this last week, and he included about a dozen photographs of different vantage points looking at the neighborhood streets on a typical Friday afternoon. And those are all attached as photographs to our presentation today. And Dan, if you could take us through some of those, and I don't know if Mr. Snow can hear me, but Phil, if you want to jump in here and take the board through your photographs and what you think they show and what the board should understand. Phil, can you hear
Mr.
me?
Snow, yeah, please, if you could, I think the overhead view is really helpful for us to understand.
He might have to unmute himself. Phil, are you there?
We see your lips moving, but we can't hear you.
Phil,
Nope.
you have to unmute.
We're not getting the audio from Mr. Snow, but
Madam Chair, I've talked to Mr. Snow and I can represent what he would say if we could hear him.
we would appreciate that voir dire, Mr. Montgomery.
Yes, I'll be happy to. Mr. Snow actually prepared this overhead photograph, and what he did was he tried to sketch out what he views as the available on-street parking in the immediate neighborhood around the mosque. And the photographs he took are the photographs that follow this overhead drawing. So, I'm sorry, one of them appears to be upside down here.
We're getting it, that's fine.
But these were all taken on these streets surrounding the mosque at 1 p.m. This past Friday. And as you can see, a lot of two of the streets here are this boulevard, which is Columbus Avenue, and Boulevard is adjacent to a park. And the boulevard is basically bereft of any parking during that time of day whatsoever. And there approximately, as Mr. Snow counted out, approximately 70 available spots in the immediate neighborhood, and almost no on-street parking during this time of day on Friday. He would explain that the mosque otherwise has intermittent prayer services that are more lightly attended during the week, but their use on Friday is their heaviest use. And he would explain, due to the unique composition of the congregation, a lot of the people take public transportation or would arrive several people to a car. In other words, it's not a very car-heavy congregation. So
the only other, I think we appreciate that context, and that's really helpful. The one other question I have are there, and I would, this is probably typical of the churches too, but there are non-service times where the mosque would be in use as well.
I think they would have some social engagements occasionally, like a meet and greet with the community. They have they would want to I
would imagine, I mean, it would be typical of any religious assembly to have that type of use as well. But
right.
Just given the nature of the different religious assembly uses in the neighborhood, I would imagine that the intent would be to cooperate with one another in terms of timing to the extent possible.
Yes.
Nobody wants to have their congregants prevented from getting there because of a lack of street parking.
They have a very, very cordial relationship with the church across the street.
And that's why I'm curious about exploring, if it's not a formal parking arrangement, just the informal cooperation would be helpful. But if Mr. Snow maybe could give us a thumbs up on that.
Are we? Yeah, I can't see Mr. Snow, but I'm hoping
Okay.
he's agreeing.
Yes.
And I don't know if
He's saying that he's not muted, but he's still not, we're still not able to hear him, but that's okay.
Okay, all right.
I've heard that all that I need to understand with respect to what's being requested. Mr. Richardson, did you have any questions of this applicant?
I have no questions.
Okay, and do we have, I know that you had indicated that Ms. Keating was possibly going to participate.
Yes, I don't, I reached out to her by messenger and she has not responded to me. I don't know if she
We do
otherwise.
have a phone number with a raised hand with a phone number ending in 1286.
Excuse me, Ms. Meininger. Hang on a sec. Yes, 1286, that's her.
Okay, could the person with the phone number identify yourself for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Allison Keating. I live at 1435 Adams Street, Pittsburgh, PA.
And Ms. Keating, do you swear or affirm that the information you'll provide to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
And can you explain what your position is with respect to this project?
As a community member, I love this project. And I think, it's pretty established that, our zoning code is difficult for folks to totally comply by. And, if they need relief from something that is actually abundant in our neighborhood, which is parking, that makes perfect sense to me. And I do also think that there might be, maybe, the zoning requirement is for like religions broadly. And I think different religions do things differently. So we're kind of painting with a broad brush on those parking requirements. I think street parking can very often be safer for pedestrians and cyclists and also, cars than, having folks going in and out of a parking lot. And those are my thoughts.
Well, thank you for your perspective, and we appreciate you participating this morning. Do we have others who would like to participate in this hearing? I think we had Ms. Keating, and we're not seeing any other raised hands. So thank you all for being here this morning. Mr. Snow, we apologize for not being able to hear you, and Mr. Montgomery, I hope you're feeling better soon. But thank you for playing both roles today. We're going to close the hearing for now and move on to the next for the morning, but thank you all for being here. All right, thank you all. Moving on to the last case of the morning is zone case 47 of 2022 for 346 John Carey Street. This is a protest appeal. So the protestant is identified as Guy Giampolo. And this is an appeal of a determination by the zoning administrator regarding a subdivision. And this is an appeal of the zoning administrator's determination that the easements providing access to John Carey Street for lots created by the subdivision fronting onto Yarrow Way fulfill the code's requirement for street frontage. So do we have the protestant, and can we just identify who is here for this case and who's on which side so that we can just sort of get an order of magnitude here? We have Mr. Giampolo.
And Marco Lane.
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, I can. Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Guy Giampolo, and I live in Panther Hollow, 525 Boundary Street.
Okay, and you're the protestant here. Are there others joining you for the presentation this morning?
Yes, ma'am. My helper, Mark Oleniak.
We have Mr. Oleniak.
Yes.
All right.
Is somebody from Krause's office here? Is anybody from OPDC here?
We just have you raising your, we have Millie has identified herself.
Okay.
Millie, could you, we just have Millie, so could you identify yourself for the record, please?
All right, my name is Millie Sass. I'm from Oak Cliff. I'm here in support of this application for
But you're,
reconsideration.
are you part of the protestants group, or you're just here in support?
I'm not going to be speaking. I'm
Okay,
in
like I
support
said, I'm
of-
just trying to identify the who's here for what. And we also have a Thomas Lang identifying himself. Mr. Lang? Could you unmute yourself so that we can understand how you're participating in this hearing? Mr. Lang, you have to unmute for us to hear you.
Okay.
Can you explain what your position is with respect to this application? Just
I'm a supporting.
okay, thank you. And Mr. Richardson is also on the line with a hand raised. Chris Richardson?
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes, but can you explain what your position is with respect to the
I'm with the developer. My name is Chris Richardson.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
we were on the last meeting and you guys kicked us out. So we had to try to log back in.
Okay, well, thank you for being here for both. I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to understand who's what with protests appeals, it's a little confusing. We also have the zoning administrator, Mr. Lehman.
Good morning.
So thank you. And just with a protest appeal, we're going to let Mr. Jamplo go first, but in making his presentation, but I would like Mr. Richardson to Mr. Lehman to give us just a little bit of a context of what is being appealed, and we'll let you respond, Mr. Lehman, but could you just set a context for us initially?
Sure thing. Okay, so what we have is a subdivision plan for future development, dividing the single lot into 4 lots. That subdivision was reviewed by staff, recommended to Planning Commission. There was initially some question because the lot, the code's definition of lot, which is section 926, number 129, that says the lot means a land occupied or intended to be occupied by no more than one main structure or unit group of buildings and accessory buildings together with such setbacks and lot areas as are required by this code, and having at least one frontage upon a street, which is the important, the sort of key issue with this particular site. So in dividing this into 4 lots, there was the 2 rear lots having frontage only on a way, rear as if oriented to Jonquière. And the applicant proposed to meet that requirement. Often we've seen applicants propose to meet that requirement by using flag lots. So small portions of the lot from the rear, technically making its way to the frontage of Jonquière Street, which would provide legal access and easement to those rear lots from a street. And this was a little bit novel, or
Hold on.
something that we had not had as consistently, where this applicant proposed, rather than using flag lots, to use legal easements in the same way. And I don't have the subdivision plan in front of me, but I believe it's at least a 3-foot easement on either side.
The question, I guess the legal question that we're going to review in the protest appeal, and again, I want the protestant to proceed as well, but I guess what we're trying to understand is whether your determination that the easements were sufficient to provide frontage on John Carey Street was consistent with the code definition of lot.
Right, that's exactly it. We've
Okay.
allowed flag lots. That's been pretty well established. These effectively are the same, and that was the basis. Have the same effect. That's actually helpful with the subdivision plan, and that was the basis for the determination.
Okay. Well, thank you for setting the context, but I would like to go back to the protestant and Mr. Giampolo, if you would like to present your interpretation and your the basis for your protest appeal. And Mr. Mr. Oleniak, are you presenting? I mean, who's presenting here?
I have something for you, Ms. Chairwoman, and Mr. Oleniak will do the bulk.
Okay. And just as you're speaking, for the court reporter's benefit, could you just make sure that you identify who's speaking at any given time?
I'm Guy Giampolo, and my partner, Mark Oleniak, my helper, he is more versed in this zoning business. But let me just start with what I have, okay?
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, the city documentation is limited as to why the decision was made to not require a zoning board of adjustment hearing for 926.129. Definition of lot, so this will address what information was provided in what appears to be a lack of proper process. This development proposes to split a single through lot containing a single house currently conforming to code that was established and occupied for over 100 years into 4 lots and structures comprising 8 housing units. See figures 1, 2, 3 with John Carey Street along the top. At issue is this creative circumvention of code by establishing 5-foot easements as effective flag lots, or as also mentioned, an alternative creation of actual flag lots, which are by definition problematic for a number of reasons. This solution is not prescribed by any code we can find, and the process did not allow for much of any community input into this development. It also eliminates most of, not all, requirements for a variance from the developer, specifically to prove hardship need for such exceptions from code, and that there will be no negative effects on the surrounding neighborhood. Instead, it puts tremendous time and financial burdens on the community to investigate and potentially appeal such developments and decisions. There was apparently no floor plan submitted with this application. The developer did give a presentation with various renderings and floor plans, see figures 4, 6, 7, on May 26th of 2020, which was not noted as a development activities meeting, a DAM meeting. A DAM meeting would normally be required due to 4 units or 8 total as up-down duplexes per presentation and 4,496 of total new structures. Even if it were a dam, this board has granted continuances for ZBA hearings when dams were held a significant length of time before a hearing. Specific questions were asked regarding requiring building on a street. See definition 926.129 lot, in that the Yarrow Way side of the area was under the landslide prone overlay. See figure 8. The developer said answers and reports would be sent to Oakland Planning and Development.
Well, wait, can we back up a second? I'm understanding that there are concerns about process, but is the issue about the creating 4 lots on that site. How has the site been historically used? Was just one structure?
Yeah.
Yeah, see figure 1.
And parking in the rear. Yes, ma'am. May I continue?
Is there, again, I think you had a couple of items in, this is a site plan that's showing the 4 lots, but did you have any background information as to, I think there was an aerial view of the site. There we go. So just in this drawing, is it John Carey at the top and Yarrow at the rear? I mean, at the bottom of the photograph? Or the other way around?
This is Mark Liniak, yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes to which?
You can, if you can see it's kind of faint there from it says John Carey Street in the middle of the trees there.
Okay.
And then Yarrow Way along the curve just to the left there.
Okay, so the Yarrow Way in this photo is the bottom.
Correct.
Okay. And are there other structures, just from this photo, it appears that there's rear parking for structures on Yarrow Way next to this property?
Yes, ma'am, my cousin's property. This is Guy again, and further down on Yarrow Way is more rear parking for another complex or whatever.
But are those parking structures or are those the residential structures on Yarrow Way?
They're all parking.
What it just is marking it. So in figure 1, you can see there's a quadplex on John Carey Street, and then there are 3 smaller separate buildings, and then there's parking along Yarrow Way.
Okay, how is that lot configured?
That is a single lot. That's also over 100 years old.
What's over 100 years old, the lot or the structures?
Both, as far as I can tell from the historic. I didn't include any historic maps, but all of this is over 100 years old.
Okay. And what's to the far left of figure 1?
So if you go down figure 3, I think it is, that's all parkland.
Well, on the other side of the trees, if in figure 1,
Parkland.
It looks like there's parking. It looks like they're trucks. I mean, I'm trying to.
That's a separate hill. That's like, I think, Bouquet Street, right, Guy?
I'm trying to pull up that picture. Nothing wants to work.
Could you push it back up to figure 1, please?
Yeah, I was going to say, could you scroll back up to figure 1? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a hillside up above. Like this is all this is Panther Hollow kind of drops down. That hillside, okay. I'm pretty sure is, go ahead.
I'm trying to understand the topography. So Yarrow Way is at the lower end of that park, or that the wooded area.
Correct. Yeah, Yarrow Way cuts through parkland.
It's Bouquet Street on the post office.
Yeah, that's I believe that's the post office. Yeah.
Post office is up top. Yeah, up top on top of the hill.
That's a very steep hillside that it's pretty much.
Okay, like I said, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah,
context.
absolutely.
But so I understand the concern being about subdividing this into 4 separate parcels. But is it the subdivision itself, or is the concern about proposed future development on the new lots as subdivided?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, all of that. Yeah.
All of that.
Again, if you could identify the speaker, that would be helpful. But
Mark, both of those, yes.
Is there a development currently proposed, or it's simply the subdivision that's under protest here?
So this is Mark. Well, I not understanding exactly how this process works. I believe we were only allowed to protest this decision there, and as Mr. Giampolo mentioned, there was a presentation back in May of 2020 that had building details that apparently were not submitted with this application, and not sure if that's why that this was not put through a zoning board appeal in the first zoning board up the ZBA in the first place. It just went to city planning.
Well, if it's
sorry,
just
the
a
planning commission.
subdivision, if there's no application for an actual development that would require variances or special exceptions, it wouldn't come to the zoning board. The planning commission has the exclusive jurisdiction to review subdivisions, but it's my understanding that what's under appeal here is the zoning administrator's determination that the subdivision reflects 4 lots as defined in the zoning code. And that's the question, is the definition of whether the lots as described are lots as defined in the code. But from our perspective, there's no actual development. This is a protest appeal with respect to that decision.
Well, in the communication that I've received that was between the developer and, I forget, it was Corey and or Daniel, there was discussion about buildings that would be on their garages facing either John Care or Yarrow Way that at least appeared to go with the presentation from 2020.
But again, I mean, if unless there were variances from setback requirements or something, if there were, if the structures complied with the site development standards for the zoning district, then we don't review every house that's proposed in the city. We only review the ones that are requesting relief. So this really goes to the lot side, the definition of lot.
Correct, but that Mr. Lehman said something about other precedent for this. We weren't able to find it. We were not provided with anything. My understanding was that they did a Zoom meeting with whatever legal authorities that they conferred with to find out, to say that that's okay. And also, at least one of the explanations, again, in that communication said, well, we moved the garages to Yarrow Way so that should suffice. But again, there was no layouts showing that. And even with the thing with the even if the simplest case that this should have had another dam meeting or had a dam meeting with this presentation, it was not.
Okay, like I said, I'm just trying to understand I think the specific issue in front of us is the one with respect to subdivision. And it's the city's position that it examined the issue, and its position is that these lots meet the definition of lot, and it's your position that they don't. So we have to look into what that actually means. So,
ma'am.
Yeah.
Guy Giampolo, there's quite a bit more to digest with this. I will send my complete testimony to you, since we were stopped at pretty much.
Oh, no. Again, we're perfectly happy to. I just wanted to have some questions answered before you went along. I'm not cutting you off, and if you want to submit a written statement in support, we would include that in part of the record. But like I said, sometimes what you're saying doesn't make sense unless my questions are answered. So I'm kind of getting to that.
No, I understand completely. That's why Mark has got the answers for you. This is why.
Hopefully.
I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Should I continue Or,
Well, like I said, if you, we actually prefer you not to read statements to us, particularly when you can submit them in full. But if you
Right.
want to hit the highlights of what
Hit the
your
highlights at the end.
concerns are, we certainly want to hear that.
let me do that for you, just so you know that this is more than just what you were speaking to. I'll just jump to the end here and give you some points that are also for digestion here. One of the key factors in granting any variance is that such unnecessary hardship has not been created by the appellant. This subdivision proposal is by definition self-imposed. A number of elements so far ignored that would normally be considered if a ZBA hearing were held. No other properties on this block of John Carey have frontage, driveways, or parking. The city, we didn't get to the part where they have these huge curb cutouts, so you'll see that in our documents. The city has already eliminated or prohibited frontage driveways in some areas for safety reasons and is considering that by code citywide. The ZBA has prohibited alternative parking for developments when access to a way is available. The development proposes two huge curb cuts. See figure 7. There they are, 23 and 21 feet with 13 feet separation, which will be a pedestrian hazard on a well-traveled route to Panther Hollow. Residents in a nearby pit parking lot also, over 125 spaces, as well as access to Shenley Park, an alternative route to North Oakland, parts of CMU, Shadyside, Fort Mill Run. It's a busy neighborhood. And again, everybody is in the back on Yarrow. Those two developments, you see one of them, that's my cousin's. There's another one further down the street. The massive front driveway area proposed will most certainly be used as front yard parking, which is prohibited. Existing flag lots have been granted exceptions because there is no other remedy, which is not the case here. Other options are available. Approximately 29% of the original lot is indicated as a landslide prone by overlay district. In closing, while developers are permitted to try to maximize the use and value of their property, there's no guarantee that will necessarily be at theoretical maximums based on code. This case should be reversed and the proposed development should be made to go through the proper process for a variance, including a new dam meeting so that the community can address these issues and proper documentation be provided. Mark, anything else?
So yeah, if you look at figure 8 is the landslide prone overlay.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful to understand as well. Is that landslide prone, or is it technically steep slope under the code?
No, I believe it's a separate overlay, at least on that GIS thing. There is, I believe, this particular property, it does not have a steep slope to it. There is a steep slope right behind it, like you saw the behind from the post office down to the first trees is incredibly steep. I mean, it's cliffside, but not exactly where this is. It's because there's, if you can see in the underneath the orange at the bottom below prone, there are a couple houses that are actually on. I think those are the backs of Bouquet. Is that, or are those David's properties, Guy?
Yeah, Dave's back of Bouquet Court is on Yarrow Way, and he has about 20 spaces in a line, just like my cousin that you can see in that photo. We don't have a photo down the street though, Mark.
Right, but I'm just saying, but there are buildings across that kind of span that cliff, but not from the park side and not.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Mr. Chairwoman, this would have such repercussions to the neighborhood that the reason for Mr. Lang being there is he owns property right next to my house on the landslide prone. He was required by somebody in the city to prop up his hill. He wants to know what you're going to do, why he's here for this one, so he could do something similar right next to my house. That's why, I was trying to get Bruce Krause and OPDC to come for this one, but they're all bound up with this process.
We may hear from others, but I I appreciate all of the documentation that you're providing, and we're going to take a good look at everything that you've presented in your presentation. You have a written statement, and if you submit that, we'll also take that into account. But I think I'd like to hear from Mr. Richardson, and then again from Mr. Lehman about the determination that the specific determination that we have to be reviewing here. Mr. Richardson, could you just identify yourself briefly for the record, and then?
Yeah, my name is Chris Richardson. I'm with Hampton Technical. We're the site civil engineers on this development, and I'm with Tom
Shunchik. I'm with Paramount Construction and employed by the owner of the property.
Okay, and can you explain your position with respect to the subdivision?
Yeah, so when we were going through the process, that's when we discovered you couldn't build on a way. And then going through this, dealing with zoning, there's no front yard width requirement in the city of Pittsburgh. So first we had, when I first submitted this to zoning, we had like a 1 foot flag lots with 5 foot easements going down beside the buildings. But before we get to that, we'll go through these slides. All right, so you can see our site with the site aerials, and then around our lot, as you see to the neighbor to the south of us, they do have buildings actually in the rear of their property with parking. And I don't believe those are 100 years old, but I could be mistaken. But they do have buildings on yard away. And then there are a few buildings that actually front Isis Way, which is just the south of that. There's 3 buildings, and they are flag lots. Some actually have Boundary Street addresses because they're like flag lots to Boundary Street. That's right there on Isis Way. And then just to the west of us, which we'll go through, there is actually a new development that was done in 2012, and it's not Bouquet Street. So the first units are looking on Bouquet Street. The units behind are looking on Bouquet Court.
Mr. Richardson, can you be careful to make sure you're speaking into your mic because you're going in and out a little bit?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. And then we'll get to more of it. And then to the south of us, also along Boundary Street, there is several units that also are flag lots. They have Boundary Street addresses located on ways behind Boundary Street, but we'll get to that and more through the slides. But you see the site aerials. Can we go to the next one?
Yeah, I think if you could move on, please. Thank you.
Yes. That shows our lot. So we do have a little corner of park to the north of us, and again, that site to the south of us that has units almost fronting yard away. All right, if we can go to the next slide. This is our proposed site, our proposed buildings overlaying on Google, so it does show the existing house as well. If you have any questions, we can go to the next slide.
Well, wait a second. So, and again, this is process.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And I want to stick with the issue that's before the board, which is the subdivision. Would this proposed development require any zoning board review with respect to variances?
No, we don't believe so. We stay with.
And can you wait for me to finish my question, please?
Yes.
And the other part of the question is this a development that would require planning commission review. And which, before you would get to planning commission review, you would also have to have a development activities meeting with the neighborhood group.
Could I address that?
Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
My name is Tom Chunchik, and I'm with the developer. We started, as Guy had mentioned, we started meeting with the OPDC actually prior to May of 2020 with some informal meetings telling them what our plans were. At that point in time, there was no indication of any variances that were needed. We went and made a proposal through a Zoom meeting to the membership. As Wanda Wilson has stated in the past, it was received generally favorably. They made several suggestions at the meeting. One of them was the landslide prone area. To that end, we do have a geotech report, and we've already prepared solutions for anything that would be necessary. But we had the meeting, and as we moved along in the process, we kept updating OPDC, telling them where we were, and that's what they had asked for. At that particular time, we went through ZDR in October of 2020. ZDR did a review, and they came back and gave us a list of everything that had to be done, including going in through getting the addresses for John Carey, getting the addresses for the ROA, and giving us a list of 10 or 15 other things that we had to proceed. We did that over
Had the subdivision request been submitted at that time?
Yes, when they did that. And we got, and then we got, well, we had submitted it to ZDR for review. Okay. So then in the fall, it came up because all along during this whole process, it was not determined that there were any variances that were needed. In the fall, somewhere around September or October of 2021, zoning had informed us of the need for, it was the back units were coming out on a 20-foot right of way and not on a 25-foot. And at that point, they said you have to come up with a solution for that. And at that point in time, that was the only variance that anybody had ever determined through a year's worth of reviews. And at that point in time, Chris came back and submitted the 5-foot easements along with flag pole frontage down on John Carey for each one of the lots. And at that point in time, I believe the city said we didn't need the easements would be sufficient, I believe was the word. So that's how the final thing was sent up for planning commission. Then we went before planning commission and subsequently got approved, and now
So
coming here.
the planning commission approval for the subdivision or for the development was October 26th, 2021?
For the subdivision.
Okay. Okay. All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to add in response? There are a few other, we're not reviewing the development, we're reviewing the subdivision, so.
Right. Yeah, if we could go down one or two more slides. So here's our plan. As you see, and we can go down to another slide you've seen already.
And again, could you speak into your microphone, Mr. Richardson?
Yeah, so here's the plan that we have, the actual site plan. And as they were saying with the curb cuts on John Carey Street, we are going through GOMI for that. And so far we are good. They reviewed the curb cuts. They had some responses. We responded. And everything is going through GOMI.
And this is Tom Chunchik. On their suggestion, we're actually cutting back the size of the driveway so that it's not a full 24 feet wide. And that was Domi's suggestion.
Okay.
And then if we can go down to the next slide. So here's a development, which is almost strictly behind us on Yarrow Way and Bouquet Street. It's called Bouquet Court. It is an easement also. It's just for pedestrian traffic, and they have buildings behind, and they did subdivide that into 6. And this is a more recent plan that was approved by the city of Pittsburgh, and it does have parking on Yarrow Way, as a lot of these developments back here have parking on Yarrow Way. And then if you go down to the next slide, here's the actual subdivision. And they actually don't even show easements, but they do show the stacked lots. And then if we can go down, and that was done in 2012, to go on the next one. This is showing you that there's no access. There's no road to access Bouquet Street. It's just Bouquet Court, and then Yarrow Way. That's how these units behind access theirs is through Yarrow Way, and that's where they park. And if you have any other questions,
no, I think what I'd like to do is go to the zoning administrator for any additional clarification, and then go back to the applicant here, who's who brought the protest, and then we'll close the hearing subject to the submission of Mr. Joplin want to put in his written statement. We'll accept that, and then we'll have to take a look at it. But Mr. Lehman, is there any other clarification that you would like to offer based on the testimony presented?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
And thank you all. Just, I guess, working back from the most recent testimony to Mr. Giampaolo's, regarding this development, I just want to make sure that I think there was perhaps some conflation of process and terms. Right now, we have what the subject of this hearing is for a subdivision and actually a determination around the use of easements rather than flag lots on the subdivision. The subdivision is the underlying separation of lots for a proposed development for which we have an application. That application was submitted in September of 2020. That application includes, it has been in review by our staff and our sister departments regarding transportation, regarding design, regarding compliance with the zoning code and compliance with environmental standards. Some of that was referred to by Mr. Richardson. But that application is still under review. We are waiting revisions from the applicant. I believe probably this is on hold as on a stay because of this appeal, and would expect that process to resume ultimately in whichever way this is determined.
So, Mr. Lehman, if I could just interrupt for a second.
Yes.
Because the review of the various departments isn't complete, is there a possibility that other variances or other relief might have to be requested and might have to come back to this board just based on final staff review?
That's correct. I want to be careful. There was some assertion that in a pre-review there were variances identified. While I appreciate that we do have a pre-application process that helps to sort of identify potential red flags and issues, that is not the same as a comprehensive.
When staff gets into the details, it may recognize that there are other provisions of the code.
To the extent, right, and to the extent that there may be changes throughout the process, as again has been discussed, there may be changes based on comments from the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. And again, and further, I would say it's not the Department of City Planning in our office that approves or reviews curb cuts and whether or not they're approved. So it's a multifaceted process. And I just wanted to be clear that is still ongoing.
Okay.
So
Thank you for that clarification.
for sure. And then also just one item, one of the earlier comments from Mr. Giampolo was around timing and cost to the community to have to go this route to have an appeal. I just want to be clear. I worked with Mr.
Oleniak.
Thank you, Mark. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
With Mr. Oleniak, and was as soon as I understood the concern and the relatively novel situation here, I waived the fee for a protest appeal and tried to expedite this hearing as quickly as possible, so that it didn't create a hardship for the community when the question is really one of whether or not an easement that is serving the same purpose as a flag lot can stand in for a flag lot under the definition of the code. There was some reference to a legal process or a review process that I undertook in coming to that determination. I can just be clear so that it's not vague. That was, I did, as is my right and process sometimes, consult with an assistant solicitor from the law department. I didn't seek a formal determination. That is a privileged conversation between me and my attorney. And it was a part of a normal process in reaching a determination. As the zoning administrator, whether I like it or not, the buck sometimes stops with me and I need to make a determination one way or another. And in this case,
part of this process is the code allows for a protest appeal to test your determinations. So from a legal perspective, that's what we're here to do.
Yes, and again, having waived the fee and tried to expedite this, I support that process. I appreciate due process and am eager to have this whichever way, have the board's analysis of this particular unusual situation.
It is all right. Well, so you say that the buck stops there, but it really
right. I mean,
the appeal process goes to the board.
My role as zoning administrator, I do have to make decisions. That's my point. Sometimes.
Well, but the process allows for the appeal, and that's what we're here for.
Exactly.
So unless you have anything else to add, Mr. Lehman, I am going to go back to the protestants here. And
yeah, if I may, I just, in case it wasn't crystal clear, the basis for the determination was just the sort of practical consideration that a flag lot in the same configuration as the easement and an easement, or I should say the easements provided in the same configuration that a flag lot would legally would meet the definition of the code. A full legal easement would have the same practical impact of providing egress to the street, which I believe is the intent of the zoning code, irrespective of the context of other lots, et cetera, around this area. The determination was simply that the easement achieves the same legal standard.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. Returning to the protestants, we're going to allow you a brief response either to Mr. Lehman or to the evidence presented by the developer. And then, like I said, we have a lot of material that the board has to go through, and we do have to make a legal determination. So,
okay, ready?
Could you just identify yourself?
Yeah, this is Mark Oleniak again. So yes, first of all, I would like to greatly thank Mr. Lehman for waiving the fee, but And I guess that was more of a comment in general that had he not waived the fee, I believe this is like $500 something for this appeal. And just to what he said, apparently there's an understanding that a flag lot satisfies the need for for frontage on the street, but there's no code for that. And the definition of a variance is any variation from the code requires a variance, which would require a variance hearing. And even in their presentation, the showing where the garages are, that is the front view, not the rear view. And the two buildings on facing John Care and the two quote unquote facing, well, actually they're saying that all four now are facing John Care because of these easements, but the buildings are mirror images of each other. And to have two pairs facing John Care and two pairs facing Yarrow Way doesn't make, I mean, it's nonsensical that you would consider that the frontage is, well, John Care for all four. That doesn't make any sense to me. That should require a variance hearing.
I think we understand the position from both sides, and like I said, I think it is a question of code interpretation that the board is going to have to resolve. So we are accepting all of the exhibits that have been presented, and if there's the written testimony, we would accept the full statement as part of the record as well. So if you want to send that in, that would be helpful. But thank you all for your explanations of this. Oh, I apologize. I know that we have two attendees who are raising their hands. Ms. Sass had indicated that she wasn't going to say anything, but we now have Councilman Kraus, who would also like to speak. Can we admit them? And
Madam Chair?
Councilman Kraus, do you swear or affirm that the information you'll provide to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And could you explain what your position is with respect to this matter?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I apologize for joining so late, a bit of a hectic morning here, but I am here to join in with the protestants in their appeal to the zoning board. I don't pretend to have the legal expertise to argue the legal case that is before you, but I would like to if I may, submit to the board the enormity of the project being requested here and the detrimental impact it would have on the peace, the tranquility, and the quality of life in a undisturbed pocket of Oakland that it deserves to be preserved. And those are my comments, and I appreciate you taking me at such a late moment in time.
No, that's you chimed in at the time when you would be permitted to speak otherwise. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Ms. Sass, did you have anything that you wanted to add as well? Ms. Sass, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. You had your hand raised and we had heard you before.
Oh, here I am.
All right.
Sorry. Yes, I am support of Guy in having your group look at this. And it seems that without due process, I think, once again, I mean, I live in a small neighborhood in Oakland too. We all often find ourselves overwhelmed by plans and development that we don't have any opportunity to examine and comment on. And I think this is a very important one. And I agree with Councilman Kraus that this is a neighborhood in Oakland that needs careful consideration. And I believe that it should be examined formally. And I think that actually it should. I support the applicant.
The protestant in this case.
Protestant. I'm sorry. Thank
No.
you.
It's confusing for us too. So we're trying to keep the terminology. But are there others who would like to participate here? I'm seeing none.
个字啦？
raise hand
啊，刘七啊，
raise hand
什么 raise hand 哪能那副这个字啦？
Mr. Lang,
yes
did you want to add something to the proceeding here?
my personal opinion is I supported the project, and I deeply believe that in Oakland area needs some new develop by law, by code. If there is by code, is by law, we should support. That's my comment.
Thank you for that perspective as well. All right, I think Mr. Oleniak, did you have another comment that you wanted to make just quickly?
Yeah, I put it in the chat. Mr. Chumchick, I think it was his name. He mentioned they were talking to OPDC. There was no communication or answers about the landslide prone or the they had come to any agreement about building on a way was ever communicated to us and was never posted on the RC the what's it called, RCO, Resident Community Organization. What's I
Registered community.
Registered community.
Organization.
That's the word. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. All right. With that, thank you all for participating this morning. You've given us a lot to think about, but we are, like I said, with the acceptance of the written testimony that's going to be submitted, we're going to close the record for today, and we will issue our decision in accordance with the timeframes permitted under the zoning code. All right. Thank you all